Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Thanks very much for watching.
Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, September 8th, 2022. Queen Elizabeth has, of course, passed away. What a fantastic person. What a history. I'm 81. I can remember, her before she was the Queen. And also, for a long time, starting in, I think when I was in grade school, I was, I got interested in shortwave radio, shortwave listening, and that was my hobby. That was my thing, and for a long time until I got married at age 26, and my wife didn't like the noise and that type of stuff. And I still continue to listen, occasionally when but there's so many events that I remember through shortwave radio, and it was just amazing. And listening to the British Broadcasting Corporation just about every day. When I was in high school for 4 years, every morning when I would wake up, I would, turn on the shortwave radio. And as I was getting ready for school, I would be listening to a shortwave radio, broadcaster in Australia. It was a home service, for being so large and everything. They use shortwave radio to reach a lot of their people, and so it was like local stuff. And for 4 years I listened to that. When I'd come home from high school, come in the door, I'd turn on the shortwave radio, and I think it was Radio Netherlands, I believe. I just knew what it was, and just went out of my and I always went to the BBC for news and things like that. So great lady. And here in the United States, politically, we're having so many difficulties, more and more, and things get more and more bizarre, and we get people, in our government, and wow, makes me, jokingly in the past, I've said, maybe the Queen would take us, take the United States back if we apologized or something. Anyway, a great lady. So what else is going on? Well, my son is in the hospital. When he turned 20, he got schizophrenia. So I think he's 54 now. We've had some bad times, and we've had some good times. There's times where it was very stressful for us. And right now he's, back in the hospital. I think he's going to be there a while. They're going to try to get him back taking his medication. Well, I think 1 in 10 people have some form of mental illness. That's a lot of people. Just think about that, 1 in 10. If you have a family, you know, with 10 people in it, the odds are, statistics are, if you have, say, 10 people in it, one of them is going to have some mental illness, some form of, that's going to be a problem. And it can be more than one, family member. It's just, uh, they've made a lot of improvements over the years, but it is really hard on families and sometimes the community. And too, when you have a situation like that, um, you you have to depend on people. If you're having a situation with a uh, person with schizophrenia, it could be Alzheimer's or something. It could be a lot of things, but you depend on if the person is missing or something. You have to call the police and whatever, and hope that they you know can help you locate the person. Uh, uh, it's just so much that's involved. Uh, Families who have somebody with schizophrenia or manic depressive or bipolar or whatever. Families sometimes have to call 911, and if the person is combative or doing something, uh, you have to hope that when the police get there, that they don't end up you know beating your son or daughter to death or shooting them or something. You just have to uh, as I'm sure I've said many times on this, that I spent 30 years working hospital security. So I've seen and had to deal with, people with those kind of conditions, and it's difficult. And I've had it in my family. My son got schizophrenia at 20, just out of the blue. He just graduated from uh, electronic school or whatever, and had the job that he wanted with the Garmin, uh, and then bang, one day things look well, and the next day things don't look so well. Recently, he lives with myself and my ex-wife. We share this apartment, and it's difficult. Um, maybe since he's in the hospital now, and since maybe I can get some sleep now, maybe things will be a lot quieter here for a while until he comes home. Uh, so maybe I ought to talk about something else for a while. You don't want to hear about that. But if you're in any kind of a position to help, uh, if it's an election or something, if it's some type of a voting or something or whatever, if you can, vote more money for assistance for those kind of people, treatment and that kind of stuff. Do what you can. I spent, like I said, 30 years. I've seen police too, in my personal life and in the work life of security, and I've seen police officers who did really well, and I've seen some that, did very poorly. And I know stories of, families who, had a girlfriend for about a year. Michelle had a brother, and her brother was big, and he was manic depressive. And she told me about time. He was big, so he was scary looking. And I've had to deal with those kind of people too. But her family, had to call the police sometimes on him. And the police would often come and just, beat the crap out of him. I guess they probably gave him an order, whatever I never talked to her about what the situations were, they might have backed him into a corner, which you never want to do. And there's, so I helped out of, a bunch of people, and I resolved a lot of. I talked to a police officer about the police academy. I was helping the department with recruitment for blacks and Hispanics and whatever the other minorities are. I guess I should have said women too, right? I don't know. I'm not sure. I think probably still that they're a minority, I guess. But anyway, I talked to him about other things because he was trying to show me, the police departments and their different stations and their the police academy and all that type of stuff. So I asked him a lot of questions, and I asked him about the police academy. I said, "Do you have a and I was sure that they would have, because the academy, that seemed like it was very very long, much longer than I took." And he said yes, that they had a very good program for that. And I said to him, I bet you need I bet you need more and better training. I've seen, by the way, I'm talking about the Fort Worth Police Department, in case you haven't figured out. So my ex-wife and myself have had to call, 911. And if I was to give a grade, A to F or something, I'd say most of what officers would get a B, and there's a few that would get a C or a D maybe. I know in one case, I think it was just one officer though out of the group. His thing was, well, your son's grown. Why are you letting him put up with this? Why are you letting him, disrupt your life? I forget exactly what the conversation was. Well, I guess what the way would be to grade it would be, if they're coming to where you are, like you call 911 and the police respond. I'd give them, I think I'd probably have to give them an A. I think where the grade would drop down, it would be like when they come upon, in my case, they come upon my son and he's doing something inappropriately, or he's talking, in a language, he's not listening and all that type of stuff. I think that's where it falls down. My son's in the hospital now, psych hospital, and about 3 or 4 weeks, he was also a separate incident. He was picked up, for that. And so then, not this last time. Well, he's in the hospital now, but back then, he was, taken to the psych hospital, and that's, of course, the temperature was really, really hot. They were over the news and radio and television and everything else. Don't be out in this, 100 temperature. And anyway, my son was taken to the hospital, and I think they kept him for psych hospital. They kept him for a day, maybe two. They didn't call. We didn't know he was at the hospital. Well, we called, eventually, and we didn't. They didn't call us when he was, when he was released, and he was released out, and they gave him that time a bus pass, good for riding on the bus. They didn't call us. We didn't know he'd been released, and we barely knew because they don't want to confidentiality or whatever. It's really, I can understand that. I had to work with that. I could have gotten in trouble one time innocently, over they're very strict on the confidentiality of stuff. But anyway, you're a parent and your child is in the psych unit or something like that, and well, when I say child, okay, grown in a case. The the psych unit, will ask, do you want us to give information out, So, here you're a parent worried about, and you're calling the psych unit or something, the hospital, and we can't give you any information, no information. If they do give, okay, yeah, he's a person, they're a patient here, yeah. But it's up to them if they want to talk to you on the telephone. They have to approve. If you go down to the hospital, your child, or it can be mother, it can be whoever it is, they have to give you a number. So we had to wait downstairs, and there was another couple, looked like came in, husband and wife or something, really, and they were sitting there too, and the desk in the lobby or whatever, they were calling up to see if in that case I know it was because I saw him in the it was a son, and we couldn't have gone up if our son hadn't given us the number that they gave him, and then we could go up or whatever. And well, anyway, not this time that I'm talking about this, but okay, recently he got picked up by the police and went into the psych unit. So then they didn't call us, and now we, the police had picked him. They'd come. We'd call 911. The ambulance arrives. Well, one thing I was really surprised. We've had to call several times recently. The 911 sometimes it was, I don't know how, I can't remember. This is 911. Please stay on the line. Our circuits are busy. We'll be with. Do not hang up. This is 911. And that's kind of when you have somebody, screaming or on the floor, rolling around, or doing something, it's And like I said, I had to deal with those kind of people for 30 years or whatever. More depending on the hospitals I worked at. The first hospital I worked at, a Catholic hospital, they had no psych unit, but we saw them come in. Well, I'm not going to go through all this. This is going to be it's only 19 minutes. But when in another case where the police, we didn't know where our son was. He was outside of a Brahms place where you can go in and get ice cream, and you can also buy some sort of some groceries in there, and you can have malts made, all that kind of stuff. And he was outside the place like at 10 o'clock at night, naked, jumping around, and police located him and took him to the psych unit. And they did not notify us that they had taken him to the psych unit. And then a day or two later, they released him from the psych unit and gave him a bus pass. And he had no shoes, no socks. And anyway, so they released him. They gave him a bus pass. Okay. So he tried to get on the bus. Remember, this is temperature, I think 107, 108 or something. I forget what it was. And we didn't know where he was. The hospital didn't call and say, we're releasing your son now. Do you want to come down and pick him? They just gave him a bus pass. The bus would not let him on. The bus pass doesn't allow people. Well, he didn't have shoes, or he didn't have socks either. So I don't know I don't know if they'd let him on if he had socks or whatever. And he had no money, zero money. He had no cell phone with him. He had nothing with him. And they, released him. And so finally, I think a bus driver did let him on the bus, but he was confused and he went the wrong way on the bus. It's kind of confusing down in that area. I know because I went with him when he was going to every few months to a clinic or something. And so it's hotter than Hades, and he had nothing, no money, zero money. Now I don't know why I don't know why people called the police. Maybe it was an officer just patrolling and saw him and thought, what's going on with this guy or something. But my son said that 4 times during the day and a half that he was out there, he ended up walking home. That's a tremendous distance that he came. His feet were burned. Every time he stepped on a little rock or something like that, that hurt. He slept for a little while in a Walmart parking lot. That may be one of the times that the police showed up. And 4 times when he was telling this story. Now, keep in mind, that's another problem. Somebody's a psych patient. I worked at a hospital where we had an open door psych unit. There were times that somebody was in there where they were under a court order and they couldn't leave. But the doors were still unlocked to the psych unit. A young guy, early 20s, in there. I didn't have any I didn't know anything about. I didn't even know he was in there, but he was complaining that he had chest pains, and the nurses were like, "Oh, you're upset and this or whatever." And then finally he died of a heart attack. They had never done an EKG. They didn't do an EKG on him or anything. He was a young man, and he had, I don't know, schizophrenia, manic depressive or something, and he died, you know. So anyway, Jimmy was out, and I know he was telling. That because of what he said, you know, when he was just talking about this. And I mean, you can't depend on, you know. But he said that the police, you know, told him move along. So I'm sure the police, for some reason, and he, you know, he said that he was asking people, can I use your phone to call, you know, call home? I don't know what he said. You know, I don't have any money or whatever. Can I just use your phone to call home to my? I'm not sure if he said to my parents. You know, I don't know what he said. I don't know if he said I just got out of the psych hospital. I'm not sure, but some of those people probably were. Some might have been an officer going by. I suspect the hospital. There's a whole bunch of hospitals in that area, and a whole bunch of them are part of the JPS thing. There's a hospital, like I went down and had a pacemaker put in the heart hospital. They have a hospital, you know, not a wing, and you know. So anyway, that's 4 times at least. Well, anyway, some people, they probably called, you know, hey, there's a beggar here, or you know, whatever. And so that didn't help him. And he made it home. His feet were burned, and he didn't have anything to drink. You know, he didn't have anything to drink. Now maybe somebody offered him, but you don't know. You know, if when you're dealing with these people. But one thing police departments need, I'm sure they're getting more and more training. You know, dealing with people. When 1 in 10 people have some type of mental illness, I think your police department and others should be learning, you know, how to deal. And one thing I, you know, would recommend. I know the Missouri Highway Patrol, when they're training their highway patrol officers. I don't know how long they train. You know, I was told, I'm sure, but I forgot. But one thing they do is have, like, parents or somebody, maybe wife, you know, whatever, come in and talk to the candidates, you know, the students who are going to be highway patrol officers, and talk to them, do their little talk, and then, you know, I'm sure open it up to questions, you know, whatever. And I think that would be really, really helpful. And let's see, how long has this been going on? Okay. Well, let me throw this in real quick. I didn't even intend to talk about this, but maybe I'm a little bit upset and under a lot of pressure. There was a hospital I worked at, small hospital in my hometown. I worked there 9 years, security. And we had a nurse come out to work in the ER. She was like filling in. I don't know if she was in an agency and they sent her out for, I forget the details. But she came out, and so the nurse, it's a small hospital, we're like family, so, you know, we're drinking coffee or talking, that kind of stuff. And then it came up that her daughter was murdered and her son was beaten in the head. I mean, it could have been, you know, he came out of it. He could have been left, you know, paralyzed or all kinds of stuff. I'll make it real quick, and we'll go into a whole bunch of details. It's the middle of the night, and nice neighborhood, in a small small town, fairly small town. Blue Springs, Missouri. Alexa, what's the population of Blue Springs, Missouri?
According to the 2020 U.S. Census, the population of Blue Springs is 58,600 people, which is a 13.8% increase over the 2010 U.S. Census.
Okay, this would have been over. I worked the 2000 census going door to door in Cass County, Missouri.
Sorry, I don't know that.
Anyway, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, a young guy is walking through the community. He had no intention, apparently, of, doing anything. I guess he just saw an opportunity. And he went into the house and confronted a young man, I think about maybe 18 or something like that. And he beat the crap out of him with something, I forget what. The boy had, I think, asthma or bronchitis, and I think maybe it was migraine? I think it was breathing. Yeah, I think he beat him up, just about killed him. And then he went, and I think she was about 18 or something like that, the daughter of the family, and he abducted her. And the father slept through the whole thing. I was working hospital security and on a Sunday. Well, it happened, I think, Saturday night, or maybe Sunday morning. I'm not sure. But the Sunday paper had on the front page the drawing of the house, a diagram of the house, showed where the son was attacked, showed the bedroom of the girl, that was taken, and where the father was sleeping. And as I was reading the paper, I thought, it's like the newspaper seems to be saying. Now that was the Kansas City newspaper, not the newspaper from the town that was less than 50,000, And I told the other security officer, do you see that? That. I said, it looks like the paper is they're just really saying, the father did it. That's what this, Now, I'm not too smart. There's an area, for some reason, God didn't give me, a lot of things that I'd like for him to give me. But for some reason, in an area of being able to read and comprehend and understand what I read and to take out, that kind of stuff, I excelled in that. I don't know why. I'm kind of glad. I mean, because I was not good in some other areas, but I wasn't good in math, but I'm glad I had this other ability. But anyway, I said, it looks like like Blue Springs is saying, saying that the father did it. Can't believe it, This is. So anyway, this. Well, it looks like this is going to be a little bit. This, at some point, I don't know, it's been a long time. An ambulance comes, I guess the father wakes up or something. Maybe the son who was beat up managed to stumble to his father's, I don't know, I don't know that she said. Anyway, this nurse who was working it all these years later, she said, my daughter was killed, and then she described, that her son was beat. Anyway, her son was taken to the hospital where she worked, small town. She was an RN. She worked there. She worked in ICU. Of course, it's like a family, the hospital, small town, and whatever. And of course, her son comes in bad condition, and the nurses right away, let the mother know, and she comes down, And the boy is saying, I forget what the name is, let's say Bobby. And the police are there, who did this to you? What happened? Who did, Bobby, 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 And so the police are like, okay, anybody know a Bobby or, whatever? Well, my son's cousin, they're very close. His name's Bobby. Aha, okay, And then she says, but Bobby works here at the hospital, same shift I do, midnight shift, and he's here now. So the police go, get Bobby, and of course everybody says, no, he didn't leave the hospital. He's been here all night. We were sitting and drinking coffee. I don't know what they were saying, but so the police decided, the Blue Springs Police Department decided that the father must have done it. I don't know why, but well, I guess because when I read it, when it happened, I remember and telling the other security officer I was working with, and he looked at the diagram and everything, and I think I remember him saying, well, there's no way that the father could not have. The father would have heard, his son being beat, or his daughter being, taken, and so anyway, this nurse was telling us, that I'm not for sure how long, but they, the police hadn't found the girl's body, and they were following, when mom and dad had to go someplace or wherever they went, a police car was following them to keep an eye on daddy. And anyway, I don't know how long, a year or so, well, they found the girl's body, pretty quick. Somebody found it. And then a year or so later, maybe a little longer, some young man did a purse snatch and grabbed the purse. And the police, tracked him down and caught him. And not with the purse in his hand or anything, but they caught him. So then they get him back to the station. It's a purse snatch, Okay, they ask him, where were you at such and such a time and all this kind of stuff, And then they say, well, okay, where's the purse? And he says, okay, well, I threw it away. Well, where did you throw it away? And he said, well, where that girl was kidnapped and murdered or whatever. He says, it's I threw it at that spot, in that area right there. And the police are like, they never release that information, A lot of people, well, why don't the police, you see the news, why don't the police, they don't, there's information they don't give, why do they, and that's the reason, and then once they confronted him with it, hey, and then he confessed to it, and it was just, he was walking by, looked in, went in, and an opportunity or whatever. So, my daughter has purchased this. You may have seen my daughter in a few videos. Some on my videos, she's flying a drone. She likes to do that. That worries me. She was out there flying the drones over people's cars, and stuff. And I thought, if it comes down and hits a car and scratches, some cars, especially some cars, and she was flying it out over Las Vegas Trail, where it could come down and a car could run into it or something. I just saw, oh my God, possible, somebody's going to get their car scratched and they're going to claim it. And somebody might have a Tesla, who knows, and they're going to say, I don't know, $15,000 for a new, I don't know, I thought, oh man, so I worried about that. You'll see her flying her drone. Also barbecuing a few times here. Stuff like that. Not a lot of videos of her, but because actually none of my family wants to be mentioned in my videos, and they don't want to be in my videos. That's fine. If you watch my videos a long time, I think you would have been able, a lot of you, if you were paying attention, would have been able to figure out, okay, Jim has somebody in his family with some type of psych problems or something. But so right now, in the last few videos, I've about it really talked about it for the first time, where I mentioned that I have somebody, and the whole thing, because all of us have been under, but it's stressful, and it's all you can think about, and you get chest pains and everything else. Anyway, my daughter just bought one of these. I think she, however, bought some, let's see, what color did she say she got? I just asked her a while ago, because I mentioned I was going to, can't remember what color she got. Anyway, she's taken it, she bought a bunch of extras for it. And she's taken it out for, a ride. And the mileage is doing very well. Of course, I worry about Hillary. She loves animals, big time. And I've been with her a few times. Coming back, I think, from the casino. We're not going to the casinos. I didn't go very much, but she was going a lot. When they give you, the perks or whatever, and you can park up close to the building, that's a bad sign, But anyway, she got this, and I don't know what, I guess it's perks down here. She told me, and I forgot what the perks are that she got. But she took it out, and she had a road runner that was racing her out there where she lives. There's a bobcat. For 2 or 3 or 4 nights in a row, she heard somebody outside sound like a man, a voice talking or whatever. And it was a bobcat or something. I think it was a bobcat, something like that. Anyway, she loves animals, and there's some wild animals out there, and she saw an alligator or a crocodile out there. This is about 30 minutes from here, she purchased a place that was already already built, and she's made improvements to it, a whole bunch of improvements to it, and she is planning on adding an improvement for us, so that my ex-wife and my son and myself could go out there. I don't think it's gonna happen. But that's what her plan is, and she's wanting to do it before Christmas. I think in February her lease comes up here. But anyway, let's see if there's any more information on this thing. Well, I don't know what I even click on here. like the look of that scooter. I like that orange color. Oh. I, in working hospital security, well, and I was also a reserve police officer, patrol one night a week, actually more than that, for about 9 years. But working hospital security, there's sometimes, well, we had patrol cars, depending on, well, the first hospital I worked at, the nuns were not about to buy us a car for patrolling with. Well, we had a Cushman scooter, Forgot about that. And then the other hospitals, multiple patrol cars. One place we had a one of the type of a postal vehicle that people would deliver, the post office delivered mail, and we had that. And, well, I can't remember, a whole bunch of different kinds of. One hospital that had a credit union, we had, I forget how many, I think 3 patrol cars, I think. And, but if we needed one, if one of them had to go into repair, service or something, the hospital had a credit union, and employees could buy a car or do other things through the credit union. And so we could then, when we needed a car, we could go use one of the cars that had been taken back or something. And they had a sizable number of them, and some of them were, heated seats and sunroof, and all this kind of deluxe, Anyway, okay, this is long enough, and let me throw this little pitch in there. If you can do something, if you're in a position someplace to do something about the crisis with people who are mentally ill. The Republicans back under Reagan, the Republicans came up with a plan to help the homeless and the veterans and mentally ill and that type of stuff. And there was a bunch of debate. The Republicans wanted to close hospitals, and they did. But Reagan and the Republican administration was, okay, but we'll close these hospitals, and it's going to be all much better. We're going to have halfway houses. We're going to have all these places, and we'll have, places located in, in like a nice neighborhood, so the people can walk down the street and get them a slushie or something. The whole thing was, pie in the sky. And the Reagan administration closed down psych hospitals. Now, a lot of those, maybe all of them, did need to be closed, down. There were horrendous, unbelievably sad stories about, parents dropping off a 9-year-old son or something because the parents didn't want him, because maybe he had a handicap of some sort, or they just didn't want him, and a whole bunch of, where some boy or girl goes into this psychiatric hospital and there's nothing mentally wrong with them, and they die of old age, in the psych hospital. All types of stories, and some of them were true. But the Reagan administration closed all these hospitals, and then all those people a whole bunch of those people, all of them, got dumped out on the street, and then they were just living on the street. So if you're in some kind of a position where you can do something to make things better, to fix problems, no matter what it is, if you have some type of input. If you're in the police department, you have some kind of an input. If you're the chief or an assistant chief or anybody, if you can do things to help the officers who are having to deal, with psych patients and things, try to do something to improve the situation. By the way, if you have somebody in your family who has psychiatric problems or whatever, and you call the police, maybe you call the ambulance and say, hey, here's the situation going on, and of course which they should, the police will send at the same time, or hopefully arrive before the ambulance arrives to protect in fact, recently we had to call on I forget it seems like he goes through different things. Laughing hysterically all day long, and even goes to sleep and laughs, and then it'll be he'll be doing something, something else, whatever. And you call the police because it's just out of control, and the police and the paramedics, but anyway, the police and the paramedics show up, and here's a person who's, totally out of control, going to do something. And police, let's say the police, are you going to hurt yourself? Oh, no. Are you going to hurt somebody else? No, not going to hurt anybody else. Okay, well, then they turn to you. Nothing we can do, and then they leave. And I've had that happen repeatedly. So if you can, maybe it's just if you're in school, in college or something or other, maybe think about, I wouldn't want to do it. I mean, I ended up having to do it and not get paid for, But yeah, I wouldn't want to, in fact, like this one hospital I worked at I worked for the company for 30 years, but they had numerous hospitals, and I worked at, 3 or 4 other hospitals but when I worked at the main hospital, they had a nursing school, and the nurses there we had a security officer who, on the night shift, just was in the nursing dorm and desk area and that type of stuff, and she did very well. The only problem is she was looking out for, which she should be in a way, looking out to protect I guess I shouldn't say girls, or guys that were students, but she withheld information from us that we probably needed to know. But anyway, but then also she worked for a long time for him as a security officer. She had to deal with the range. We had to go shoot once a year. Qualify. If you don't qualify, then that's, well, you get 3 chances, Don't qualify, that's it. You're not working as a armed security officer, And that's what happened to her finally. That she had there were 2 range officers, and one of them, or maybe, made sure that she passed, and she was not a good shot, I guess. So, but there was a point to that, and I forget. Oh yeah, I remember now. So the nurses would go away to, I think, Medinger, was that it? they'd go away for I don't know how long, a month, 3 weeks, I don't know how long, I can't remember now. And, work as a nurse. Of course, they were students, but work as a nurse. And they came back, and every one of them said, "Oh, I'm not going to, when I'm working, when I graduate, I'm not going to work at a psych hospital or any place like that. No way." There wasn't any of them that said, "Oh, I want to help those people." I'm sure they did want to help those people, but they didn't want to work with them, and I don't blame them. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Remember, if you can think of some way to help with the problem, make improvements or whatever, maybe don't vote for Ronald Reagan. Well, I guess you can't vote for him, he passed away. Okay, well, don't vote for Republicans. Well, no, don't do that. That might be unfair. Because I doubt it, you might have a Republican who wanted to, but just be an educated voter and don't get carried away with, craziness. It shouldn't be, police against the people, or it shouldn't be, blacks against whites, or just, let's try to be sane in a crazy world. Thank you very much.